The problem with a lot of alcoholics is that we are completely codependent. We either need someone to make us feel better, or we're trying to make someone feel bad so that we can feel better. Well, today's Daily Reflections talks about that. April 24, AA Daily Reflections. Learning to love ourselves. Alcoholism was a lonely business. Even though we were surrounded by people who loved us, we were trying to find emotional security either by dominating or being dependent upon others. We still vainly tried to be secure by some unhealthy sort of domination or dependence. That's from As Bill Sees It, page 252. When I did my personal inventory, I found that I had unhealthy relationships with most people in my life, my friends and family, for example. I always felt isolated and lonely. I drank to dull emotional pain. It was through staying sober, having a good sponsor, and working the 12 steps that I was able to build up my low self-esteem. First, the 12 steps taught me to become my own best friend, and then, when I was able to love myself, I could reach out and love others. Well, this is the crux of my problem. I always wanted someone to make me feel good inside, and if they didn't do a specific thing, then they were wrong. And usually, especially when I was growing up, it was girls. My girlfriend always needed to make me feel better about myself. I got sober for the first time in Pensacola, Florida, and I had a great sponsor. I was in my late 20s. And my sponsor, I had many, because I kept getting fired because I kept relapsing. It wasn't even a relapse. I just couldn't get sober. I'd get a month and then I would go drink again. 3 months and then I would go drink again. A guy named Flounder. He had a young family and I was alone in Pensacola because I had just washed out of flight school in the Navy, so everyone that I knew had since moved on, so I didn't really know anybody. There was new students coming in all the time. He would have me over to his house to have dinner and things like that, and he would also just tell me what I was doing, which was awesome because I totally needed it at the time. One of his friends that wasn't even in the program needed some yard work done, so he told me, come over here, be here at 7 a.m., and we need to work on this guy's lawn. And I was like, okay. So I show up, there's just stacks of sod all over the driveway. And he's like, we're laying sod today. And if you've never laid sod in Florida, it's not a lot of fun. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm thinking, I didn't say it out loud, but I vividly remember, what does this have to do with sobriety? Took us till about noon, and at that point I was covered in sweat and a little bit grumpy. And in the car driving back from that guy's house, I'm like, is that guy even in the program? And he's like, no. I said, why do we help him? And Flounder says, because it was the right thing to do. And I said, okay, well, that was nice, but why am I here? And so he looks over at me and he says, well, you always tell me you have low self-esteem, right? And I said, yeah. And then he says, do you know how to fix that? And I said, no. He said, by doing esteemable things. He said, you helped somebody out today that you didn't even know. While you were helping him, you didn't drink, and now you have tangible evidence that you did something good for another person, which is esteemable. Therefore, you have self-esteem today. And that concept blew my mind. And it never occurred to me that self-esteem was actually something that you could hold. I thought it was something that I felt. So his point was, if you do esteemable things and you do them on a regular basis, and then you have concrete evidence that you have done esteemable things, then you shall have self-esteem. At some point, I have such a laundry list of the things that I've done that I can look at it and say, that's not bad. I did a lot of good things. Because I also had this weird thing in my brain that, well, I'm a good person. Deep down inside, I'm a good person. Even though I wasn't doing good things or helping other people. It was all about me. When I had the realization that I was good because of what I did, then it was a lot easier to love myself. We still vainly tried to be secure by some unhealthy sort of domination or dependence. That's a big, complicated thing to unravel as far as codependence. In my life, though, I was either depending upon a woman to make me feel good about myself, sports to make me feel good about myself, or my job to make me feel good about myself. And when I was in Pensacola trying to get sober for the first time, I had just gone through a divorce. Divorce wasn't even final. I was still working through the divorce. I was shacked up with a very unhealthy woman. Oh, and then I got removed from flight school because of my drinking. So at that point, I had no relationship supporting my perceived needs. I had no career that was supporting my perceived needs. And because I failed at everything, well, I didn't feel great about myself. And I was at that fork in the road. And I didn't even know it at the time. But going through the program, doing these very tangible, practical things, little by slow, I finally started to feel good about myself. And then little by slow, because I was doing the right things, all of a sudden God showed up in my life. And when that happened, I was pretty much all in on this program. And then it was the realization that if I do enough good things that are tangible, at some point I will see that list and the nebulous becomes the real because that stuff is measurable. And when I have evidence that I'm a good person or I've done good things, the weird anxiety that I'm a bad person started going away. And I don't think I would have ever gotten sober if I didn't realize that who I am is built upon what I do. Starting to ramble. So if you're not sober, please go to a meeting, meet somebody and call them, and then go to more meetings. If you are sober, go to a meeting, say hi to somebody and help somebody out. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to.